Hello, I hope you've had a very good weekend. And I hope this week is a good week for you as well. Let's pray. And as soon as we pray, then we'll have a quiz. And then we'll go right back to what we've been working on.
Good morning.
Let's pray. Father in heaven, there's a part of us where we can think about ourselves and where we can think about others and where we can think about you. Pray that you will help us to know when to use that for which. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, we're going to have a quiz. Let's put away everything except your Bibles. Put your green Bibles, your glass Bibles, this kind, only this kind, on the edge of your desk so it can get TA initial on your quiz. Thank you. It has been 2 weeks, I think, since anybody has posted any questions. So I had to make some up that you haven't posted. You might like yours better than mine, but
The last question was posted on Tuesday.
There's a second page.
There's a second page.
Yeah.
oh, is there?
Yeah.
On the second?
Yes.
Oh, I better look at it.
I think the third, so you better.
There might be a third? How did I miss that? How did you know I missed it? It looks easy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take it. I take it all back. I have some purchasing to do. Man, what's the matter with me? I stand corrected. And thank you for posting. I will get on there and do some blank. This one? There you go. And here's the rest. Well, one of them was purchased this morning. That was not from the second or third page or fourth page, so that was from the first page. And it's number 1. non-linear still working? I see a hand. Did you hear a hand? Thought I saw someone's hand go up and down. And then two way. Is anybody still working? Okay, let's put them face down and pass them forward. Oh, did everyone get initialed that needed to be initialed? We're missing it. Okay, please pass forward. I can collect them when you make an announcement.
Okay. There are still one person each that haven't taken the first two quizzes, so if you were absent on one of those quizzes we're doing now, or you don't remember taking two quizzes, please make arrangements with me if you have an excuse for your absence. Okay? That will, I shouldn't, you haven't tagged you guys down. I mean, yeah.
You all are aware that we're looking at next Wednesday for the midterm. Isn't that the 17th?
Yeah. Another thing, by this Friday, because I'm handing back all of the quizzes this Friday, so that you guys have time to study them for your next term. Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. Do we have all the quizzes? Okay, excellent. If you were trying in vain to follow the outline on the course schedule for lecture topics and that sort of thing, as promised, I have in non-linear fashion switched a few things up. I'm not going to not cover those things. What happened was we covered last week what should have been covered this week. Okay? Now, for midterm purposes, everything everything in our lectures, everything we talk about here, right up until the midterm is testable for the midterm. But the book material for the midterm, unless you see it on a quiz, if it's already showed up on a quiz, then everything on a quiz right up to the midterm is fair game. There'd be no surprises on the midterm from the reading past the time that it was originally scheduled. Yes.
Is there a way we can see our graded quizzes or get quizzes back to study them?
Yeah, he was just saying he'll give them back on Friday.
Your grades are already on that.
Okay.
Fair enough?
Yeah, I saw the grade, I just didn't know if we could see what we got right and what we got wrong.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You'll get it with the answer mark right if you have one.
So you'll have those as study sheets.
Awesome.
And I'll just tell you, you're not wasting your time by studying the quizzes. Everything that has been on a quiz, right up to the midterm, even if it's on a quiz Monday, everything on the quizzes will be on the midterm, okay? If you have a quiz on Monday, then, and it's not graded and handed back, then we'll post the answer key quiz on the site so that you have it, if we even have one on Monday. So don't worry, there will be an exceptional one. There won't. You'll have every single quiz question that you had all term on the midterm, all right? Plus, you can have anything on the midterm from the lecture right through Monday's lecture. And anything in the reading, Bible, Steps of Christ, and the Thirsty for God textbook up through only the time that it was originally scheduled that we were going to have the midterm, not extended so you get more material on the midterm. Is everybody clear on that? Is there anything else you need to know about the midterm? Anything you want to know about it? Because I don't want you to worry about it. We're not here to play games where I try to trip you up and see if I can make sure enough people do badly. That's not what this is about. I want you to succeed. If you all got an A, that would be glorious. Okay? So when we covered this week's material last week, if you consult the lecture calendar outline, it called what we're supposed to do this week 3 fingers pointing. And we were to cover today the first finger, and we were to cover the second finger Wednesday, and we were to cover the third finger pointing. Now that is a reference when we say 3 fingers pointing. That's a reference to an old aphorism that people, you know this one already, don't you? You're a step ahead, man. And fully tracking. The old aphorism is whenever you point your finger at somebody else, what? You pointed 3 fingers back at you. And it is so common among all religious people. And it's for some good and honest reasons. But it's very common among religious people to automatically point a finger at people that aren't of the same religion or that aren't quite in the same place in that religion that they are. There's something about religion that's one of the unintended consequences of being particularly religious. Okay? Because being religious, now this is going to be a bit of a paradox, and there's some irony here. Being religious means you're part of a group that not everybody is part of. Isn't that true? If you join a church and there's membership in that church, you affiliate with it, there's an in and an out. People have referred to our church, and I doubt that we're the only ones that have done this. I just haven't spent enough time in other churches to hear that probably the same metaphor has been used. But how many of you have heard this? The church is the ark. And, we have to be in the ark because when the world floods over or when Jesus comes back or whatever, if you're not in it, then you're going to perish. So we need to be in the ark. And so when we use metaphors like that, we think about people that aren't in our church or doing church the way we do. We think about those people sometimes, and sometimes some people all the time. Think about people that are outside of the church as being like the people that perished outside the ark. And so those are they. We're we, those are they, those are them. Those are not us. We're us, we us. Outside, that's them. Those are people that do things that we don't do. They go places we don't go. They eat things we don't eat. They drink things we don't drink. They smoke things we don't smoke. They believe things we don't. They say things at their funerals that we roll our eyes and say, well, you know better than that. And what a dangerous and foolish belief. They're ignorant. I could straighten them out. And we have a whole bunch of ways that we know that there's a difference between us and them. In the process of putting together in our brain altruistic behavior. Now, altruistic behavior is a special category of behavior. I'll get my chalk shook out if I still have it. I'll lose it one time if I haven't yet. Whenever there's you and there's somebody else, there's a lot of ways that you can relate to somebody else, okay? So each of us will think of the main person as ourselves when I draw this, all right? This is a self. Okay? there's a self. There's no fingers pointing yet. If there is an other, one option for how I or you can deal with other is to just not deal with them. That's it. I just avoid them. I don't get anything from them. I don't take anything from them. They don't damage me. I don't damage them. We don't want the same thing, and if we do, I just find something else. I'm not going to deal with them. So that's a person who's asocial. And that approach is asociality. A just means not. Social, like being in society with somebody, means to interface with them and relate to them and have a relationship. That's a social interface. So when you don't have it, your approach is, no, I just avoid people. Now this is something that some kind of isolated, introverted kind of folk that don't kind of discipline themselves or aren't forced by circumstances to go out and meet people. They're the hermit kind of person. They're just not engaged with people. Now, in spirituality studies, there's a way that a person can be asocial, as we would observe their behavior on the outside. There's a way that a person like that can have a very active and rich, others-centered spiritual life. If it is true that when you pray for somebody else, that it impacts them, even when you're not even there with them, in theory, you could have somebody who's asocial, whose whole existence is about isolating themselves so they can dedicate their life to prayer in other people's behalf, without telling them that they're praying for them even. Is that a waste of time? What do you think? Do you think that's a waste of time? You don't? Why? What do you think is happening when you pray for somebody that doesn't know?
I think, well, it helps. I think God works when we pray, more so than maybe He's able to work when we don't.
Okay. I agree with you. Is there anything about that, though, that perplexes you?
Yeah, because can't God work even if we don't pray? It's kind of weird.
That's my question, too. It's a toughie.
If they're asocial, then how are they supposed to know what who to pray for? They're just like isolating themselves completely.
Good point. How would they know? How about media? Like, what if they were stalking everybody, prayer stalking everybody on social media, and then they hear about it? Do you ever find yourself praying for somebody that you've heard about that's having a tragedy or whatever, and you just say, Lord, would you please bless that person? And that's the last thought you're going to have of them. You're never going to make contact with them. They've never heard of you. You just pray for them. Does anyone ever do that? You hear about something in the news, some family like gets burned out of their house, or the kid has leukemia or something, you go, oh, man, it just moves you, and you pray earnestly. I mean, sometimes you actually stop what you're doing and really do prayer. Do you ever do that? So that's just one way. But I suppose you could have acquaintances, people you were forced to be with, like as a horribly shy person. Maybe you were forced to go to school and your parents forced you to go to church and you had neighbors that lived around you. You know and love those people. You can't afford, your nervous system just can't be with people. So what you do is you just kind of isolate and you take your list, your prayer list, you just pray down the list. Your family that that bothers you and contacts you, you love them and everything, but you have to kind of limit your time with them because they're others. Your nervous system is just not wired for it. It just saps your energy beyond what you can fill back up. I mean, are none of you like that? Are none of you painfully shy? I mean, I wouldn't expect you to put your hand up and let me know. That's the irony.
I also feel like sometimes we don't just pray for them, but it's also like almost helping our relationship with God by like praying for them, like it brings us closer. Like but by like having multiple things to pay for, like it's almost building your relationship with God.
Okay, so there's that whole dimension of even if it wasn't helping other people, which I believe it is. I agree with you that it is. And there's research to support, really, there is really scientific research, honest, peer-reviewed scientific journal articles to show that when you pray for somebody and they don't even know you're praying, it makes an impact. It's not huge. It's not like 80% more of them get well or something, like when you pray for them, when hospital chaplains pray for them. It's small, but it's statistically significant. It is in some studies, not all studies. It's mixed results. When you look at reviews of studies, meta-studies, there's enough of them to show it's not just an off thing, and it's not just a bunch of religious folk that we're hoping to find that. Because there's people who are skeptical who go into it and do it and go, oh, this is actually obviously greater than random. So I think it's possible when a researcher is skeptical or when somebody associated with the process is skeptical that it influences the process. Because we're talking about something that probably is operating at a non-Newtonian level. And we know that human measurement affects how things in those realms beyond us interface with our realm. What becomes reified in the physical world is affected by human measurement. I mean, we know that in the physics lab. So when you're praying for something to be done that involves matter, like making somebody not have cancer, you're asking for something to be done in the physical realm. That realm that's based on actually 4 dimensions of things that are made manifest in our realm from beyond our realm. And I think that issue aside, though, yes, perhaps there's a whole dimension of what good is it doing us? Well, is that selfish to do things that just help us? No, I don't think that means that you're a narcissist or anything if you're doing something that just helps you. It doesn't help anyone else when I go running. I don't even go with anyone else. The dog, I go with the dog, but I don't run with anybody, except my wife on the weekends when she can run with me. But it's charging my batteries. It doesn't help. It isn't directly for you that I sleep at night or that I have breakfast. But I need to do those things. So prayer could be one of those kinds of things, and praying for other people could be an indispensable part of it. Good point.
So I guess this is why Jesus talked about, like, if you've even thought about doing adultery, you've already done it. And if you think evil thoughts about somebody, you're maybe committing murder or laying down foundations.
Maybe. Now I'm gonna move outside of Christian spirituality. I apologize because I know that's not the focus. This is not world religions class. If you take my world religions class in the fall, we'll talk more about this one religion at a time. But this is about Christian spirituality. However, there have been studies that show that when they had certain kind of meditators, enough of them, actually thousands of them, that intentionally went to Washington, D.C., without telling anybody they were doing it, without announcing it. They kept it secret among themselves. They positioned themselves around Washington, D.C., and they spent weeks during a season that is always a time when crime increases. And this was several years ago when crime was even higher in D.C. And all they did was meditate. That's all. With the intention. It wasn't a kind of meditation where they're meditating on peace, for instance, like a Tibetan Buddhist might have a topical meditation, like an intentionality meditation. It was just meditating. But it was for the purpose of making things more peaceful. And it made a very statistically significant drop in crime, or at least it associated with it. And it has been repeated in several other major cities of high crime. It's been repeated. So there's something going on. And perhaps when you think crap about somebody, maybe it actually does have some impact on the somebody, even though you say nothing and you don't even meet them. Maybe it does. So here's asociality. Do you see do you see how this interfaces with spirituality? Does this seem off topic to you, or does this fit in your model? Feedback? Okay. The next is, okay, here's self and here's other. So, I guess I should have written this a little differently, but I'm going to say, right here is selfishness, okay? We've done asociality. Here's selfishness. So all the things we're doing now are actually sociality, not asociality, okay? And there's multiple ways to be social. Selfishness means that I have an exchange with you that benefits me. I get something out of it. But it costs you. It hurts you or it costs you. You're set back and I gain. Now, any exchange where, and now you can look at more than one dimension of this. You can look at what your intention was with the behavior, or you can just look at the outcome of the behavior. The outcome of the behavior is not always exactly what you were intending, because things don't go the way we want. You try it. Like when you're competing with somebody, you're hoping that it benefits you and hurts them, but you lose half of the time or more when you compete with people. And so when that happens, you went in selfishly, but the result helped them and hurt you. So that's an unintended consequence. So you can think about either what your intentions are, or what the outcome is, or some combination of it. If you're looking at a system, you want to look at the combination. Because everyone can be well-intentioned, but they can be a bunch of idiots, and they go in to help everybody, and everybody's harmed all the time, and it's a big mess. So that's not what we're after either. Some effectiveness is nice. Some actually getting it done. Like, oh, I'm going to go feed the poor and the hungry and everything, so you go feed a couple of them, and what you did, your behavior actually caused more of them to starve. So then you're not really bringing any help across the line. You just wish you were. You just help, think you are. And a lot of charity donations and work, that's what happens. You think you're helping, so you give something, and it gets used. The resources you give get used to exploit people more and to make them more impoverished. So it's like some of what they give to orphanages. There have been some of these adopted kid programs in an orphanage where they actually have a kid, and they get audited to make sure there's really a kid living there by that name. And they realize that's the extent of the audit, so they kidnap children and put them in there so that they can get the money from the agencies and pass the audit. Or they go actually bribe parents. They buy the children from the parents so they can then make more from the contributions from the charity. So nobody intended that except the jerk. So selfishness is plus for the self, minus for the other. Yes?
Couldn't you also have selfishness that's mutually beneficial?
Yes, you could in the results. That's the premise of many modern economists. That the invisible hand, that's called the Adam Smith's invisible hand in economics. Who's a business major? So you've heard this, right? Adam Smith's invisible hand. That's what premises the invisible hand. It doesn't. In the real world, it actually doesn't work that way, but it's a justification for people to keep waste of resources trying to make it work. Yes?
So I know you touched on this, but would you say that it's still selfish if your intentions are good and it ends up harming them? Or is it something...
I don't think it's selfish, no.
Okay.
I think it's well-intentioned behavior that had unintended consequences.
So this is based on intention then?
I think so. But there's that whole other dimension of you can be well-intentioned, but you're an idiot. You're clumsy. You're backward socially, so you don't actually understand the system you're making worse in the long run by your best intentions.
Mm-hmm.
So we need some smarts too, not just lovey-dovey kumbaya hearts.
Mm-hmm.
But we need both.
You're not trying to be selfish, but you didn't hate a man
Who did I forget?
Oh, I didn't.
Kelly, did I leave you out? What's the matter with me? And then I'll pay you for the auditing service. And you got Price Waterhouse over here. That's right, he knows the game.
Know the game.
He knows the game. Okay, so the next one is something that's just mutually beneficial. Okay, and kind of like Adam Smith's invisible hand that Kelly mentioned, but you could in this both mean, you could know, this helps us both. This is a good exchange. You know, I have a need for this, you have a need for that. I have extra of this, you have extra of that. Well, let's just make it straight across street, and everybody goes away going, I'm set. That's what Adam Smith really imagined. Well, no, not exactly, because he imagined that it would be the engine of selfishness that would bring that about. So he was kind of thinking that the best thing we can do is look out for ourselves. But he was saying it so that it could help everybody. Not like Anne Ryan, Anne Ryan, who says in Atlas Shrugged and other things, that concern about the other person is the immorality. But that's the true evil, sin, is being concerned for others' well-being. I don't know who flushed her head down the toilet as a kid, but somebody, because from a systems theory standpoint, that just does not pan out. It just doesn't work, like in modeling scenarios and that sort of thing. So this is mutuality. And then there's the next one is altruism, okay? And these I would like you to know. Altruism costs you something, at least you're willing to have it cost you. That's your motive is, okay, this is going to cost me. I don't get anything out of this directly, but I want to benefit. So it's motivated by wanting to benefit the other person, even though you're willing to be set back by it. And so that's altruism. And the other one is spite. Spite just says, screw you, screw me. That's it. I don't care. I'll die if I have to hurt you. I don't care what it costs me. I'm going to make it hurt you. It's going to hurt me worse. I'm going to cut my nose to spite my face so that you can look at my ugly face. You know? Does it make any sense? Spite doesn't make any sense. It's sort of a panic reaction from someone who's habitually kind of, insane. That's insane. That doesn't get anything for anybody. If I could go and get a shot at the doctor, if I could go into the clinic and get a shot so that I could be cured of ever doing anything spiteful, I would be in line. If there's any way I could be rid of the part of me that's depraved enough to be willing to hurt myself so I can hurt you. Do you know, I don't mean this to at all ever reduce the gravity or the emergent, urgent sense of how seriously you should take somebody's suicidal gestures. So don't misconstrue this and say that I'm saying that you should do other than respond, with lights and sirens when somebody starts doing suicide ideation. In fact, that might be one of the best things you do if somebody is manipulating you even, and you know they are, and they're saying they're going to kill themselves. Make a 911 call. I mean, let's not have that ever go unresponded to. Because if they were serious, you put the monkey off of your back when it's like, oh, they hurt themselves, and I judged that they weren't serious. That's a dangerous way to go. Looking back, the Monday morning quarterback, when other people are looking at it too, they're going to go, you mean they told you they were thinking hurt? He said, yeah, but I could tell they weren't serious. Oh, yeah, well, good job. Now they're dead. Or they're clinging to life and their brain is now damaged. So you got to take it 100% all the time. But I will say this, there very often is an element with suicide attempts. We won't get into whether they're intending or ambivalent or don't intend to die when they do these things. But either way, they can be just as lethal. Whatever one of those three motivational constructs. But there is very often a component of, if I do this, this is really going to hurt so-and-so. Think about that. That is nothing but spite. That's spite. I'm willing to die just to hurt this person. And sometimes when people it's the going, well, I'm going to get close to it and they're going to save me. That's why they make a call sometimes. Or they really mean it and then make the call because they change their mind or because some survival mechanism kicks in that they can't control. Whatever it is. But spite is one very strong proof of the irrationality of sin. It's just not helping us. Sin is not honestly helping us get our needs met the best way. And then there's another category. It's not exactly up here. I guess you could kind of put it under selfishness, and that's, we don't have an exact word for it in English, but in the German it's Schadenfreude. And that is the special kind of pleasure we get when somebody who's not in our circle of acceptability, somebody who's definitely a them, who's a bad them, really gets it. And we enjoy it when they get it. Someone that's been exploiting us and hurting us, and they're nasty people, they're horrible people, and then you see them totally with their whole scheme collapse on them, and humorously they get hurt real bad. I mean, have you never, at 3 in the morning, found yourself on YouTube looking at Instant Karma or Criminal Gets Theirs or whatever, or Stupid Criminal Tricks, where they throw a brick and they don't realize that it's not glass, it's actually acrylic, and that it won't fracture with the brick, and so it bounces right back and gets them straight between the eyes, and they're down for the count. Or the guy, this is an oldie, but it really happened. The guy that is doing a roof job in a liquor store, and he cuts his way through the roofing. He's just going right through the roof, you know. Cut, really. And he gets it all pulled back. He pulls some flashing back, which leaves a jagged piece of sheet metal that was part of running into the roofing felt. And so when he's lowering himself down, it grabs his arm and it rips open the brachial artery, and he's going spurt, spurt inside of the building. He's going, gosh, this could kill me. So he's holding the thing going spurt, spurt. You can watch his pulse in, the red fountain. So he runs to the door and it's deadbolted. Well, he can't get, so he tries, it's got bars on it though, and he's trying everything to get out. And he's looking up there, he never had a plan to get out except opening the door and going out the front door. And he didn't realize it's locked from the inside, so he's locked in, bleeding to death. So he sits down and calls 911. And we look at that and we go, thank you, Jesus. We love that. I know there's something about that does something in me that other stuff just doesn't do. And I don't know how many times I have watched that probably like 4th or 5th grade Asian girl in the elevator with that big man who thinks he's going to assault this little girl in the elevator, and he has failed to calculate her martial arts status, and she takes him to dojo school in the elevator, and she just kicks his backside. I mean, she just stomps the snot out of him. And when the door opens, he's trying to get out to save his life, and she says, nuh-uh. She pulls him back in and continues to thrash him. And when he finally breaks free and he's trying to hobble away, she's after him, ready to hurt him some more. And I watch that thing over and over and over because it feeds my soul. It's kind of like I get the same kind of pleasure I get when the maniacal preacher can adequately put those sinners and the devil right in hell's lake of fire where they belong, and can really help me to picture them, the people that have really screwed me over, sizzling in their eyeballs for just a little while. But that's not healthy. That's sin. And it's not the feeling, I believe, that Jesus would ever have. And it's unsanctified when I have those feelings. And I still love them. But you know, they're no more wholesome than lust for people that we have no business to have lust for. Certainly the lust is delicious. It's just not good. And certainly the schadenfreude, you know, when I went through police academy, sheriff's academy in Contra Costa County, when I went through with Larry Lassiter, who was the life of our academy class, Marine commander who had led tank battalions in Iraq, had 2 master's degrees from UC Davis, was a college baseball player on a scholarship. He was the funniest cop you'd ever want to meet, and he was good to people. And when he was chasing the bank robbers in Pittsburgh, they laid out in the weeds when they got a little lead on him, and they shot him, and the first shot severed his brainstem. And he was dead before he hit the ground. And I went to his funeral, and it was a huge funeral. And it made me sad about being a peace officer. And I watched his 7.5-month pregnant wife crying and be comforted by her mother-in-law, who was also crying. And our class was the honor guard. And then we drove in the 6 or 7 mile long procession in our units on the freeway to the graveside. And the guy who pulled the trigger is on death row in San Quentin, and he uses his internet access to field marriage proposals from the women that admire him from around the world, having taken down this bad cop who was one of the finest men I've known. And there's all kinds of arguments that are getting made for him to stay alive. And this actually occurred in the early spring of 2005. So Larry's kid is most of the way done with elementary school now. I never met his dad. And Einstein, that pulled the trigger, is sitting there having a following on the internet with people that think he's some sort of hero. And there's a part of me that says, whether philosophically I agree with it or not, when I hear that man's name come up in the news because his last appeal has been rejected by the governor, and I hear that it took 45 minutes to get him dead in a death chamber, there's a part of me that I can't help, or I haven't figured out yet how to help it, that's going to be glad. That's going to say, and that's not a good part of me. It's not a good part. When we're talking about this, when we talk about the other, we're talking about somebody who's out here. Because it doesn't really apply when we're talking about the person we're in love with or our own children, because they have a special part of kind of in the self thing. They're part of me. And the best way to get them to be part of me is to have someone else threaten us. You can have a brother or a sister, you can try to end their life on multiple occasions, like most nights growing up. But let someone else from outside the family raise a hand, and what happens? That's right. They become enemy, and this is, nobody messes with my sister. Nobody messes with my brother. Don't you ever. Don't you ever. You can hate your parents, but if somebody insults them, it's like, don't you ever. You're ready to, you think it's violence time. And that's the way we have a tendency to work. So we have all kinds of others. We have family and unfamily. We have Adventists, and this is a single syllable. You have to say this in one syllable, Adventists. Can you get that out without actually having a new syllable start? Ready? Adventists. Non-Adventists. Adventists. Because we can almost get it in a single syllable because it's really convenient for us to use them. We've got, they're non-Adventists. They're Adventists. Or if we're really trying to make it obvious that we're really not against anything, well, they're not Adventists or anything. We say it like that. It's okay. It's okay that they're not Adventists, but it's not really okay. But it's okay that they're not, they're not Adventists or anything. Of course, he's not Adventist or anything. Those are people that I refer to as NOPs. N-O-P-S. They're not our people. We have this. We all have this. But Jesus told us that our job was to do this. There are no others. He demonstrated over and over in every one of the categories where we see him challenged to see if he'll step up and do his part against whoever. He won't do it. Even his own family, when they came to visit him. No, actually, they came to get him because people were saying he was psychotic and needed to get him into treatment because he was saying and doing things that they thought were crazy. And they went in kind of to collect him. And then someone came and said, your mom and your brothers are outside. I was like, they're here to collect you. And he said, who are my mom and my brothers? It's anyone who does the will of God. He wanted to be rid of all of the circles so that there were no others. Everybody was just self. We'll see you on Wednesday. I did. I don't know what to do about Fridays.
There was no second sheet there?
Unfortunately, it was just recent, as in I've been able to go across Friday.
Yes.
But as far as the next company, or at least the next one,
Oh, that's the rest.
yeah.
Where do you work?
I work at
Oh, very good. Everybody likes going there.
yeah.
They have a good time over there. It makes me wish I drank coffee. I just don't like it.
Yeah.